Ladies and gentlemen, and good evening, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to this evening's international broadcast. Ladies and gentlemen, this evening, it's my humble pleasure to introduce you to an amazing man, and a man that would take me probably an hour and a half just to introduce, for the sheer amount of accomplishments that this guy has, the connections that he's made, the business that he's grown. It really would take me forever. So I'm going to just say this. Tonight is my most humble and privilege to be interviewing the most amazing Bernie Swain, the founder of Washington Speakers Bureau. Now, I'm going to give an introduction and background of Bernie, but the first thing I want to be able to say is, Bernie, good evening, sir, and thank you so much for coming on from the US. Good evening to you.
Good. Thank you. It was great to talk to you. I love England, so I wish I was there.
Fantastic. Who knows? Anything's possible. Anything's possible. Now, let me just introduce this amazing man. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be, we will try and make some time to ask Bernie some questions. Now, the first thing is we want to give Bernie as much of love as we can. So please do like, comment, and share the broadcast. If you've got somebody that's an aspiring speaker, somebody that's looking to start in business and they're looking to jump over those hurdles, that wants to become a great leader, we're going to learn some most fabulous lessons this evening, and Bernie's going to be sharing some really amazing experience, knowledge, questions, and advice with us. So we welcome you to the show, and we're going to try to pose as many questions as we can. We're live for 45 minutes. Now, Bernie, today actually, and I'm really humbled because it's been a busy week, and I get home today and a box arrived by FedEx, and as I opened the FedEx box, guess what arrived in the post? So Bernie has sent me very kindly a copy of his latest book, which came out in 2016. And when I opened the front cover, it's what made me who I am, Bernie Swain. And inside, I've got the most amazing welcome message from Bernie to sign the book. And I'm going to be starting to read this evening. Now, we're going to be talking about that a little bit later on. So Bernie, thanks indeed for joining the show. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll try and keep up with the comments on the broadcast. So I have to look down from the screen as well when I'm doing a broadcast. And obviously, everybody, good evening to you, and thank you for joining. So Bernie Swain is the founder of the Washington Speakers Bureau, founded in 1980. Bernie has represented American presidents. He has represented British prime ministers. Now, his business all started with signing Good Morning America anchorman Steve Bell. We're going to be talking to him about that and other things during this broadcast. Again, please do share. Now, Bernie has represented leaders all over the world, sports personalities, influencers. There are so many people. In fact, in his book, there are over 34. Is it 34, Bernie, the interviews
34.
in the book?
Yes, it is.
34 interviews with leaders from around the world. And Bernie's represented people like George W. Bush, Margaret Thatcher, Tony Blair, just to name a few. And if you're a sports fan, then, ladies and gentlemen, a little bit later on, we're going to be talking to Bernie about the amazing Lou Holtz. So welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, please do like, share, and comment. We're now going to go straight into questions with Bernie. We can learn something today. Everybody can learn something. So let's jump straight into questions, and we're going to ask Bernie, just a couple of things. I think the first thing, obviously, the business started in 1980, Washington Speakers Bureau. Now, we've just been talking off air that it started with the first signing of, Good Morning America anchorman Steve Bell. But if you're starting out in business, everybody will know what it takes to go through the strength to how. We were just talking about how you started your business in the stationery closet. So perhaps we could start there, the stationery closet, what that was about. You worked in the stationery closet. I mean, from the stationery closet to working with George W. Bush, what a journey. Your first signing was Steve Bell. Would you like to share the early days, the stationery closet, and then getting that first signing?
Well, when I started the company, along with my wife and our partner, before I started, I was about to have my dream job in life. I was to be an athletic director at a major university. And we read an article about the largest lecture agency in the world at the time. And my wife read the article, and she sat me down and she said, you come home several times a week and you complain about the bureaucracy of university life. And I'm not sure you're ever going to be happy unless you can make decisions on your own. She saw something in me where she thought that after I started my dream job as an athletic director, that the situation would change and I would be frustrated if I didn't get to make those decisions. So we started this company based on that magazine article. We had no plan and we had no experience and we had no money. We put a second mortgage on our home, and now we had $55,000 of mortgages on a $60,000 house at above 12% interest rate. And we couldn't really allocate money for an office, so a friend of ours offered to rent us his stationery closet. His name was Chuck Hagel, and Chuck would later become the Secretary of Defense for Barack Obama. And to give you an idea of what it was like to start work in this stationery closet, if we had to leave the closet for any reason, we would have to sit there and wait for one of Chuck's meetings to be over, because you had to walk from our closet through Chuck's office just to get out. And in order to start our company representing famous people, we would sit in that closet and think of famous people. We would try to find a telephone number or an address, and none of our phone calls were ever returned, and our letters were returned from lawyers who said, my client, this famous person, is under a written contract with another agency. Don't write him again or we'll sue you. Now, the thing you have to remember, when we started, there was no internet. So based on that magazine article, we thought that was the only competition we would be facing. What we discovered by the letters we got was that the fact that there were 5 or 6 large agencies in addition to the agency that was in the magazine article. And that claim that he made in the magazine article, which got us started when he said we have no competitors, was nothing more than a strategic boast. And I remember I used to sit in that closet often and think to myself, what have we done? 12 months passes in that closet and nothing has changed. We didn't represent anyone. We were discovered there was talent and competition that didn't exist before, and we were about out of money. Then 2 months passes, and this is when Steve Bell comes along. Steve is the news anchorman for a new show that had started in 1975 called Good Morning America. I had briefly met Steve when I was at the university, and I had let him use the swimming pool. Steve had been under one of those written contracts with another agency. The contract had expired, and they hadn't produced for him. He had somehow found out that we started a lecture agency, called me, invited me over, and I went over to his office, asked if we could represent him, and I shook his hand. On the drive back to the closet, I suddenly realized that I hadn't signed into a written contract, and I got back to the closet and tried to justify it to my wife by saying, well, what good would it do to hold him to a piece of paper if he wasn't happy? Well, that mistake on my part, that error in judgment, became a defining moment for us, because Steve went then and told his friends, other Washington journalists, that if you don't want to sign a written contract with an agency, you can go with these new little guys in town, shake their hand, and walk out on them anytime you want. And that is how we got our first speaker.
That's amazing. And, you know, they always say that, you know, if when the first one comes, the first big signing, the others will follow. Was that a really, you know, because we talk about, I'm going to talk a little bit later about defining moments, and, you know, the header of your website, BernieSwain.com, where your book is, it says the most successful people are driven by their defining moments. What drives you? Was that a defining moment for your business, you know, to really start moving forward? Did it change everything at that point?
Well, it did. I mean, the biggest defining moment was the fact that my wife saw something in me that I didn't see in myself. I could have easily said to her, you know, I think I know better than you do, but I was willing to listen to her tell me that she saw something where she knew I wouldn't be happy doing what I was doing unless we changed paths in life. So that was the biggest defining moment for me. But yes, there are, you take paths in life, and sometimes you take one fork in the road, or you take a path in the other fork, and along the way you make slight adjustments. So getting Steve Bell was a big adjustment for us to sign more speakers. It took us a while to get started. You know, we had 5 or 6 speakers that came along, recommended them to us. Now we're signing handshakes with everybody, so we have an obligation to live up to what we do, because those people could have walked out on us and we produced. And we were still a very small agency where it was hard for us to find work for people, because people didn't know we existed because they wouldn't answer our phone calls or letters. And we had been in a closet for 14 months.
And I think that people watching need to understand, I mean, to build a business takes, great sacrifices, and working in a stationary cupboard for 14 months to build a business is absolutely amazing. And obviously from there, and if you're just joining the show, ladies and gentlemen, we're with Bernie Swain, the founder of the Washington Speakers Bureau. Bernie has represented presidents in the United States, such as President Ronald Reagan, President Bush, and in the United Kingdom, Tony Blair, Margaret Thatcher, and many other influencers, leaders, all the sports personalities around the world. The Washington Speakers Bureau are the foremost lecture and speakers agency. And it's amazing to see Bernie taking some time to help us this evening. So we're going to ask Bernie a few questions about leadership, but indeed, if you're watching and you've got aspirations to become a speaker, you've got aspirations to become a leader, you're moving yourself and your life forward, it's really great to listen to a podcast like this, because Bernie Swain, now retired, and although still the chairman of Washington Speakers Bureau and very active, he's now, excuse me, taking time, to give back, to help people, to mentor people. And as he says today, it's very challenging for the youth of today. And I admire that, because, anyone that's helping youth, like some of the other guests that's been on my show, they're helping the youth of today to create better leaders of tomorrow. And it's so important. And Bernie's got the vision for that. So I want to talk a little bit about leadership, Bernie. Jonathan Sanders is Tim Burt's just come online. Tim Burt saying, where do you see the speaking business going in the next 3 to 5 years? Tim Burt is a former CBS advertising executive from Missouri, spent 30 years at CBS, has come out, is doing his own thing now. Lovely guy. Where do you see the speaking business going in the next 3 to 5 years? Is that something you want to look at, Bernie?
Well, sure, I'd be glad to. I don't think it's going to change. I mean, the speaking business has grown, but it's remained relatively constant about what it does. There's the things that have tried to interrupt the speaking industry have been like teleconferences or video podcasts or something like that. And while those things are valuable and share a lot of information, the speaking industry provides people who show up in person, where you can see somebody, up close, and you can talk to somebody privately if you want to talk to somebody privately. And so I don't think the speaking industry is going to change. It will grow. The speaking industry is a billions of dollar industry. And so I don't think it's going to change at all in the next 3 to 5 years, because I don't think it's changed since we started in 1980, except it just gotten bigger. When I started, there were 8 or 9 languages in the world, and now there are hundreds and hundreds, and they're all over the world, not just in the United States.
It's global. It's happening everywhere. And I think people, want to learn. They want to listen to people that have been there and done it. And Tim, thank you very much indeed for that question. Let's talk a little bit about leadership, because you've represented so many leaders that have led countries, presidents, prime ministers, football teams. And I want to talk to you a little bit about Lou Holtz just in a short while. I know he's one of your faves, and I watched a speech of him, which we're going to talk about. Let's move on to leadership, because, I'm very much into leadership. I love looking at leaders and how they act and react. First question on leadership is, do you think leaders are born, or do you think they're grown over time?
Well, I think the reason I wrote the book is because I think leaders are grown over time. But it takes, back began, I got a call from Alex Haley, who's the great author of Roots. And Alex used to come back to my office often, and he would sit for hours at a time, and he would talk to me about family and relationships. And in those conversations about family and relationships, he used to often repeat a phrase to me: when an old person dies, it's like a library burning. And I'll repeat that: when an old person dies, it's like a library burning. And what he was trying to say to me was that the people in our lives, the wisdom and the knowledge that we get in life, comes from the turning points in our lives. That our lives are basically a storehouse of wisdom and knowledge, a library stuffed to the rafters. And the choices that we make in life relative to the turning points in our lives are what gives us the wisdom and the knowledge to become leaders. And so I think the key to leadership is the fashion to the turning points in our lives, and we make good and wise decisions, and then we commit ourselves fully to those decisions.
It's amazing, isn't it? I mean, leaders, I really do love leadership, and I've through my life, I look at different people I've worked with and I've been around, and there's different types of leaders that I admire, and I admire leaders that are fairly calm, excuse me, but fairly driven. And I've been doing a lot of research on leadership with purpose lately. I've been reading a really decent book by Kevin Murray. And my personal opinion is that leadership with purpose, we've got to change the way we lead to help engagement levels within companies. What do you feel about leadership with purpose? Does that resonate with you?
Well, I mean, obviously you've got to have purpose when you lead, because you're really looking after people that are looking up to you. So you have a responsibility for their careers or their lives or the people that are following you. So it's very important that whatever you do, you set an example. And part of the setting the example is to have a direction in where you're going to go and have people believe in that direction. And so obviously leading with a purpose is incredibly important.
No, thank you. I do appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, we are with Bernie Swain, founder of the Washington Speakers Bureau. Bernie's book, What Made Me Who I Am, is available at bernieswain.com. We're going to put the links up there. Please do feel free to put a question in the broadcast. And also, please do help like, share, and comment. It's an incredible 45 minutes that we have with Bernie. We'd like to share these lessons and learnings from Bernie Swain. The obvious questions that people might think I'm going to ask Bernie is, what it's like working, with President Reagan, and what it's like, working with all the high profile people. I think it's fair to say that the list of people that Bernie has worked with is absolutely extensive. I guess what I'm really interested in and I want to convey tonight is Bernie Swain, the man Bernie Swain, how he built his business, how he's managed his business, his thoughts on leadership, and his ability to endure and make a business last over time. The company founded in 1980 and is going stronger than ever than it ever was, and it's now 2017. I'm working with a dear business partner, Harry Rhodes, and with the support and I guess the initial confidence and belief and vision of Paula Swain, your dear wife. Washington Speakers has grown into a global situation. We've been talking about leadership, and I wanted to ask you another question. I want to talk a little bit about just one client, if I may. And this client is Lou Holtz. So I'd love you to introduce Lou Holtz. I watched his speech on Goldcast last week. It was amazing. This amazing, most famous guy that changed everything at Notre Dame. So would you be pleased to introduce Lou Holtz, his background, how you come to meet Lou Holtz, and perhaps the impact he may have had on your life and career?
Yeah, Lou Holtz is a football coach. And, like a lot of football coaches, he's very inspiring. But he is more than inspiring because he talks about life lessons. And he comes from a background where he grew up in the poorest of mining towns in West Virginia, just in a one-room house where the bathroom and the kitchen was in the same room as the living room. So he went from, and he doesn't look like a football player. He's short and thin and speaks with a lisp. So, if you saw him on the street, you would never think he's a football player, but he's overcome all of the things in his life to be one of the greatest football coaches ever. He is the only football coach ever to take 6 teams, 6 individual universities, all with losing records, and take them to a bowl game the very next year. So it's an amazing accomplishment, and you can put that in the context of a CEO. Think of a CEO that took 6 different companies, provided leadership for 6 different companies, and took them from losing money when he started to making money the very next year. And in that context, you can see how difficult it is. Well, when we were first starting, about 2 years after we were starting, I wanted to Lou wouldn't sign with any speakers bureau. And so I read in the paper that he was coming to the White House to meet with Ronald Reagan. So I wrote him a letter and asked if he could stop by the office. And he's a true gentleman, so he didn't know us really. And so he agreed to stop by the office and say hello. He said, we asked him at the time, Lou, we'd like to represent you. There's no way to fool around with to put it in the context of making it sound better, because I know you've turned down so many people. And he said, well, let me think about it. I will get back to you. A month later, we get a letter saying that he's decided that he must concentrate on football and he can't be represented by us. Then another month passes and I get another letter, and in the letter it says that I have 2 inboxes on my desk. One is for football and one is for speeches, and the inbox for speeches is twice as big as the inbox for football. So if you'll allow me to change my mind, I'll allow you to represent me. So in the letter, Lou writes 3 questions, which he includes in everything he does. Can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence? And me. And they're easy to pass over because he puts them in everything, so you don't really pay much attention to them. This came at a time I'm sitting at my desk, and we had just had a tad of success. When Steve Bell came along, we had 5 or 6 other Washington journalists come, and so we could just taste that success. And after 14 months in a closet, success tastes pretty good. We were still signing people with handshakes because that was the mistake I made. So I'm sitting, and none of the other agencies ever decided to sign people with handshakes. They were still signing. So I'm sitting with Lou's letter. I'm about to file it away, and I'm thinking of ways to get rid of the handshakes because I'm tired of trying to do a good job for somebody and then worried about whether they're going to walk out on me anytime. And I'm trying to think as many ways as I can to cut corners because I want that success to happen fast. So I leave the letter on the desk ready to file it away. It stays there for a day, stays there for several days. I pick the letter up. I can't figure out why I can't put it away. And then I read the bottom, which I missed several times. Can I trust you? Do you care about me? Are you committed to success? The exact reasons I wanted to start a company on my own in the first place were those reasons. And what that letter taught me was there's no shortcut to loss.
I think I may have just froze this slightly, Bernie. Are you still there?
I'm there. Did you hear my story okay?
Yeah, I got the back end. He just went on the back end. Resonates, and I'm sure it's with everybody. Sort of percentage plants, and then you reflect, realize that's exactly why you started your business. So he was a major influencer. Are you pals, buddies still today? Do you see each other?
Everybody I've represented, I'm close to. They're my friends. Over the years, from 30-some years we've been in business, those handshakes stayed with us because what those handshakes did were establish an atmosphere, an environment of trust in the company. Not only the trust between me and the speaker, that they know that I'm going to do the best for them, and in return, they're going to do the best for me, but also an environment of trust with the customer. It was that, we were going to do the very effort, and in return, we know we're going to get a reciprocal kind of attitude back from you. never signed a speaker with a written contract. They've all been.
They've all been, yeah. We're slightly cracking up on broadcast. The viewers, I do apologise. Sometimes this does happen on side-by-side interviews on Facebook. Now, Faye Ventures says, no, can you repeat the ending, please? So Faye Ventures, she's a lady who runs a thing called Busy Mums, and she's got mindset. She heard, there's no shortcuts to success, but she's just saying, no, could you just repeat the ending? So that last paragraph, the loose stalls, would you mind repeating that again, Bernie, just to make sure everyone hears that?
Yeah, I was sitting there at my desk thinking of ways to cut corners. I wanted success to happen faster, and I was feeling like, well, how can I do this, and what can I do to make that success? And I wasn't really concerned about, being ethical. And I picked up that letter where Lou had said at the bottom, can I trust you? Are you committed to excellence, and do you care about me? And it suddenly struck me, those were the very reasons I wanted to start a company in the first place. And what I learned was that there are no shortcuts to long-term success.
So that was that brought you back. You could have chosen a different path, and those words resonated, and it brought you back to being congruent.
Right. I mean, we could be very small right things to do, then everything to those hands we now represent, people that we've represented over the years, has all been on an atmosphere and an environment of trust because of those handshakes.
It's amazing to hear. Brian Sherman's asking a question. What advice would you give to a new to a new speaker? I know we got a few questions to ask, but I think these questions are fairly pertinent. So Brian's a business coach, I believe. Is it Texas, Brian, if I can remember, under the Maxwell coaching camp? But he's asking, what advice would you give to a new speaker so that they can move themselves forward to build that name brand credibility, the like, know, and trust factor?
Well, if you go on a 10-step process to get a speakers bureau interested in you, and in that is a way to improve yourself as a speaker. The first thing to do is, I always find that I'm doing that and speaking in front of other people and things that you can do. And then you've got to decide what's your story. Why are you different? What is your story, and why are you different from anybody else? And the people you and a resume, and when you establish a resume, that you may not be somebody famous, but it doesn't mean that you can't write articles or do podcasts, or do something to help other people. Critique the competition.
Viewers, if you're listening, are you hearing Bernie as sort of stuttering slightly? Just can we give a sound check and someone put a comment in the comment box just to make sure our connection is okay? I'm getting a stutter here. So is it coming across clearly, ladies and gentlemen, just to make sure we're all good? We will continue. Shannon Styles is saying, I wish we could go back to the times that a handshake was honored. Times are so different now. Sorry to interrupt you there, Bernie. So it was slight crackling on the speed. Hopefully it may have settled, and Faye saying thank you. So I think that we're coming through okay on sound. Sorry, Bernie. Carry on. I apologize for interjecting.
No, I'll go over it. First thing you do, conquer your fear. Then find out your story. What sets you apart? What do you want to say to other people that you think is important for them to know? And then establish a resume by doing articles or writing stories. Just to establish who you are. Then critique other competition. So look at what other speakers do. Learn from and how they tell their story. Then outline your speech. Good to find an organization to speak to, if that's an organization that, one, has customers or people in the audience that may be interested in you, or two, if the person that you're doing the free speech for will recommend you to other organizations. And then you want to do a video. It's incredibly important today. All the hundreds and hundreds of speakers bureaus, they all require a video because they need that video to show to customers. And find a speakers bureau. And there are so many. There'll be one in your area.
It's fantastic advice. We've broken it out there, but it was coming across the pertinent points. I got that. Demi Fowler saying, what qualities does a leader need to build a strong and effective team? So obviously it's great. Another great question on leadership, because you grew your team, and obviously I've connected and hooked up on LinkedIn and various other places with the Washington Speakers Bureau. You've got a great team behind you. How did you build that team, and how did you grow together? She's saying, what qualities does a leader need to build a strong and effective team? Now, I love this because I love team building. I love team growth. I live for it passionately, and I'd be really keen to hear your views, the same as Demi is.
Well, I think the most important quality for a leader is empathy, and that's the ability to understand somebody else. You can't be a leader unless you understand what the people who are following you are going through in their lives, and so you can't set your message to those people unless you understand that. And I think it's a leader who organizes other people to do their job. So it's important to let other people do their job, give them responsibility, and if they don't do the job well, or they're failing at something, then that your job is to teach them how to put them back on the right path in life again. So I think allowing people to do their work and having empathy, which is understanding other people, are the two qualities I think of a leader.
That's fantastic, and hopefully, Demi, that answers your question. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're just joining us, we've had the privilege to have Bernie Swain online this evening on the Diamond Experience Show. Bernie is the founder of the Washington Speakers Bureau. He's also the author of What Made Me Who I Am. Bernie has worked with some of the most high power and influential leaders, sports personalities, and authors around the world. An amazing company, an amazing journey, and an amazing entrepreneurial story. It's what we live for. It's what we love to hear. It's what keeps us going when we're building our businesses and we're striving for greatness. We've been talking about leadership this evening. We've been talking about former American presidents and prime ministers. We've been talking about Lou Holtz, an amazing guy that I'd watched and listened to actually just last week, and his speech blew me away about the silver spoon in his mouth, and the story is very lighthearted but true. An amazing personality. Bernie, let's talk a little bit more about your book. The book come out. You've got all these interviews in it. You've met some amazing people. How did you choose what interviews to go into this book, and how did you bring this together? Because there's 34 interviews in there, but you represent thousands of people. So how did you decide who was going to go in the book and who you wanted to interview to be in it?
Everybody that's in the book I have represented. So over a period of years, I've developed a friendship with all. Part of the friendship is that, I got to know them, and I got to know the personal lives and the personal turning points in their lives. So it was incredibly important for me to share that story. So I did interview 100 people. I selected 34 of the book just by picking a cross section. So I had different people from different places, and part of that, the personal turning points in their lives. It's where they started and where they grew into where they became important, and along the lines that helped them succeed and accomplish things in their lives. And Robert called me when we first started, and Bob said, the difficult thing is that you're going to have a hard time getting to tell you the true story. So we would interview each of these people and took out all the stuff about work, they accomplished it, and so people when they read the book can see themselves.
I'm going to have a great pleasure, reading this evening. I think we've got slight broadband stutter, which does happen. So apologies again, audience. The power of the internet. We've been talking about Bernie and his book, and now actually, if you're just joining us, quite an emotional moment for me because Bernie had connected with me and asked me for my address. And the next minute, I get this through my front door. This arrived today by FedEx. In fact, it went to the house next door and there was a FedEx label there saying, there's a box for you. So I opened it up, and to my surprise and delight, I have my own copy of Bernie's book. And, I'm going to be reading that tonight. And not only that, Bernie's inscribed, inside the front cover to Bradley, with much respect and admiration, Bernie Swain. So I can tell you, this is one of the moments in my life that I'll cherish, which leads me on to another question for Bernie, because, the most successful people, and your header for BernieSwain.com, ladies and gentlemen, go to BernieSwain.com. It's Shannon Stiles is saying that is a strong and amazing gesture, and Dilys Shah saying how lovely. Both those two ladies are lovely ladies. And yes, indeed it is. It's most amazing to receive it, because for a gentleman that's become successful, that takes the time to do something, it shows his character and it shows where he is in his life now. So it leads me on to this next question. I want to talk a little bit about, defining moments. And we spoke briefly off air about defining moments and forks in the road. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about that, because we have choices, we have direction. And like you said, it's knowing what direction to take. What's your thoughts on defining moments, forks in the road, and what you do when you're making the decisions which way to go? I think we've lost Bernie, ladies and gentlemen. I think we've lost him. I think we've stalled on the broadcast of Bernie. Now, don't go anywhere. What I'm going to do, are you there, Bernie?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, yes. We've got him back. There we go. We're struggling with the internet. So, yes, what do you think about forks in the road, those defining moments? And how do you help people to kind of consider the decisions they've got to make at those forks in the road?
Well, I think we're all faced in life with forks in the road. Decisions to go in one direction. These forks in the road are us by the people in our lives and moments in time we experience. And our knowledge and wisdom comes basically from the choices that one road or another path in life. And so I think it's incredibly important for us to be aware of the turning points in our lives. There was a baseball player who played for the New York Yankees. He was asked about the turning point. Unfortunately, us don't pay attention to these turning points in our lives. And I do take it. Resistance. I think the success and accomplishment on are paying attention to these turning points, then making good and wise decisions, and then committing ourselves fully to the decisions that.
We're breaking in and out. We're breaking out, but as they say, the show must go on, ladies and gentlemen. So do bear with us. I know we're breaking in and out slightly. We're going to ask Bernie another question as well now. Are you just signed in to buy the book? Demi saying she just signed in to buy the book, but there's no link to buy. Yeah, so Demi, if you just go to Amazon, you'll see Bernie's book on Amazon. Just type in Amazon, Bernie Swain. You'll see on Amazon. I'll try and post the link into the Facebook thread just once we finish the broadcast, but it's there. Available on Amazon, and yeah, you'll be able to buy it. Don't worry, I'll put a link in there. But thank you very much indeed to go to Bernie's site. I appreciate that. Now, Bernie, I mean, let me ask you a question, if I may. You know, when you look back across this glorious life, you know, the struggles, the challenges, the adversity, the route to success, the meeting all these famous people, you've lived a fantastic life, got a lovely family, and you know, is there anything that you would have done differently when you look back now? Because you're retired, but you're still very busy, chairman, speaking. You're very, very active and still, you know, guiding, talking, and dealing with the business. But when you look back, is there anything that you would have done differently?
Of where I was going in my environment and what I wanted to accomplish, because no one in college, when I was looking to decide to either go to college or not go to college, I had a teacher in high school me to go. He inspired me, and that was one of the turning points in my life where I ended up going to college, despite the fact that no one else in my family had ever gone to college before. And we need to pay attention to these turning points. I had no idea what a turning point was when I was college and gone off in a totally different direction. And so, but luck doesn't last. Work, and what you need to do is to be able to be aware of the turning points in your life, so you can make good decisions.
I think we're frozen. I think we're frozen again, ladies and gentlemen. I can see myself moving on screen. I think Bernie's frozen unless you can hear him again. Are you there, Bernie? Are you there, Bernie?
Yes.
Yeah, gotcha. Okay, yeah, we keep freezing, sadly. And what we do, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, obviously, thank you very much indeed for watching and listening. We've broken in and out a couple of times, but you know what? I'd rather spend 45 minutes with a couple of broken moments and extract all that amazing information from this most beautiful man. You know, there's lots of questions coming in. You know, Shannon Stiles is such great information when he isn't frozen. You know, ladies and gentlemen, Bernie's taken time to come online today. I'm sure there may be another opportunity. We'll look to see what happens in Bernie's schedule, his privileges this evening, but I'm sure you'll want to hear from him again. But indeed, you know, you can learn from Bernie. There's plenty of information about Bernie on YouTube, and do your research and get his book. Grab the book. You know, I'm going to start reading that book this evening, you know, once I settle down. So listen, we want to say thank you. You know, Faye Ventures says hard work, not luck. Thanks to that, Bernie. There's a whole question there. On creating your own luck. I always say the harder I work, the luckier I get. We've been talking with Bernie Swain, the founder of the Washington Speakers Bureau, who's represented American presidents, British prime ministers, leaders, authors, and sports personalities all over the world. It's been an incredible evening this evening talking to Bernie Swain. We've asked a number of questions this evening. The last question I'd like to end the broadcast on is mindset everything? What do you think about mindset when starting out in business, in anyone's career or sports journey? What's your thoughts on mindset? Is it everything?
I think attitude is. We're sitting in that closet 18 months, and you know, attitude. I could have easily quit, and today the way everything is, you know, in life. So I think attitude is everything. I think having a passion for so much more, having talent for it, I think that's to have.
Do you know, there's been so many times, so many times where I wanted to give up, I wanted to step back, I wanted to fall off. But there's always an inner voice inside me that says, get back up, keep going, don't stop, never give in. So you sort of suck your pain up and you get back on the saddle and start riding again, right?
Yes.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined by Bernie Swain this evening. We want to say thank you very much indeed for Bernie for joining the show. We got a couple of broken moments there, some great insights from Bernie. We're very, very pleased and privileged. On Facebook, please send out a lot of love, comments and share. Feel free to ask some questions. Connect up with Bernie via bernieswain.com, where you can buy his book, and the most amazing book of What Made Me Who I Am. My own personal copy has just come through the post today. Bernie, it's been amazing speaking to you. It's been amazing for you taking some time to come online and answering questions. On behalf of myself and the viewers who's been watching, my name is Brad Chapman. This is Diamond Experience, and we've had the humble pleasure to have the amazing Mr. Bernie Swain online this evening. I'm going to pass to Bernie now to say good evening and good night, and perhaps to finish on a little sentence of experience or an anecdote of wisdom that you may wish to pass. Over to you, Bernie.
Pay attention to the turning points in your life, what's happening in your life now, and then opportunities that people in your life are giving you.
Absolutely beautiful. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much indeed, Bernie. Good evening. Thank you so much, sir. Just wait there. We'll end the broadcast. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please do like, comment, and share. Wherever you are, it's your time to shine. Have a fabulous evening, a fabulous day. Good night, and God bless. We'll see you now. It's bye from me and bye from Bernie. Thank you.